Cool. So, Dr. Paul Toriello serves as the Assistant Dean for Clinical Graduate Programs and is also the clinical professor in the Department of Neuropsychiatry and Behavior Sciences at the School of Medicine, Columbia, which is where I will be graduating from in May. So, really excited to hear from Dr. Toriello. Before joining the School of Medicine, Columbia, Dr. Toriello also served as the chair of the Department of Addictions and Rehabilitation Studies at East Carolina University for 11 years. Other leadership roles at East Carolina University included 5 years as the director of the PhD in Rehabilitation Counseling and Administration program, and 3 years as interim assistant dean for research and grant administration. Dr. Toriello has led his team through accreditation of the Counseling for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Education Programs, also known as KGRAP. He also served as a founding member of his college's task force for interdisciplinary education. He has started 2 student-operated, faculty-directed counseling clinics and has a long history of successful funding for research grants focused on innovative interventions for persons with co-occurring addictions and mental health issues. Dr. Toriello has taught broadly at the undergraduate, master's, and doctoral level since 2001. And he's also the past president of ARCA. So, Dr. Toriello, we are very honored to have you join us today. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Allie. And thank you all for joining us on this Friday. Well, it's afternoon here. It's just a few minutes afternoon. I imagine some of you are in different time zones, so good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. It's always tempting to not say anything after that introduction because the latent imposter syndrome is like, I got to live up to some of that stuff. So it's tempting, but I will press on. What I have in mind for our hour together is just a lot of reflection and discussion about this artificial intelligence thing that is with us, whether we like it or not. And I framed it from a couple allegories in American history, the Jake, or depending on which version you read, the John Henry versus the steam engine, and then of course Paul Bunyan versus the steam engine, as just some lenses to guide this discussion. There's going to be many intersections from these allegories to classic American values. Some might be a bit offensive to some. That's okay. We're going to have a nice, respectful conversation. We're going to be honest with each other and take a look at this content, if you will, and apply it to ourselves as rehabilitation counselors, perhaps specializing in working with clients with addictions issues. And yes, we're going to do some breakout sessions. Let's see if I can get my slide to advance. There we go. Did it advance for you all? Excellent. So you can see a lot of discussion, looking inward, discussing outward, hearing each other. And ultimately, if AI is here, how can we use it to our advantage? I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. Maybe we're just going to think differently than we thought before for this session. And I think that's always good. It's wonderful to see a lot of names and faces I haven't seen in a long time. Former colleagues, current colleagues, former students. It's just I'm at that time in my life where you see these names like, wow, this has been a wild ride. Dr. Reed, it's good to see you, and you still got your VCU moniker up there. That's always nice to see. And on and on. So let's do this. We don't have time for full-on introductions. That would take well beyond the hour. So go ahead and get your chat opened up so you can view it. And if you're on the road or whatever, just be careful. But what I want you to do, and I'm going to start out by exemplifying what I want you to do. I want you to share something special or unique to yourself. And I'm putting mine into the chat right now. I took 3rd place in middle school spelling bee as a 6th grader. So if you put something in chat that is unique and special about you, I would appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. Which reminds me, Chris, I forgot to thank you for inviting me to do this. Dr. Sacco-Benny is our president of ARCA and shepherding us through a very complicated concerning year of issues, student loans for students, political landscape, et cetera, et cetera. And I saw Chris this morning and she looked great. And I think she's feeling pretty good too as a Friday. SB, can you confirm or deny that?
Woohoo, Friday.
Let's go. All right, so Jake Henry and Paul Bunyan versus the steam engine. These allegories were written a long time ago. They exemplify from very different lenses the tension between America, hard work and bootstraps and all that, and progress. There are many other themes going on in these stories, fitting in, being an outcast, being relegated as unimportant, less valuable. Another theme is constant change. Lord, there are several of us on this call have been doing rehabilitation counseling for decades, and we inherited a different profession than what it was decades before that in technology and now AI. So I don't know if the handout I sent it to Vicky late, so I don't know if y'all got it. It was a basic synopsis of the Jake Henry and Paul Bunyan stories. I don't know if you had a chance to read that or are familiar with the stories, or maybe you did a chat GPT to give you a summary, which is what I did. I've read them a long time ago, but it's been a while. Jake Henry was a Black American who worked on the railroads, and he would drill holes into the rocks for which they would place the dynamite in and blow up the rocks to get the railroads laid and through the mountains and all that. And the steam engine came along and would outperform him, at least so in theory. And Jake or John, depending on the version you read, took up the challenge. And he beat the steam engine ultimately. But he died almost immediately after his heart exploded in the story. There's a different frame of reference for this one. He was a human being, hard worker, an extension of post-slavery America, horrible conditions, brutal work, and yet he still fought for his place, and it cost him his life. Paul Bunyan is a mythical figure. He's a giant, and he has a big blue ox babe that helps him with his logging and all of his adventures. He could carve rivers with one fell swoop and cut fell trees with 10 trees, 20 trees at a time. Larger than life, mythical. And the steam engine wasn't seen as a threat. It was seen as, oh, this is interesting. This is kind of comical. Let's have a contest. And Paul didn't die. He absorbed the hit of technology, so to speak, and America progressed from there. So you can see there's two different takes on the progress. And I know there are different layers that we can start with as we think about it as a rehabilitation counselor, as somebody who specializes with clients with addictions. But let's just keep it in terms of what do we value in this country of ours, particularly as it comes to work. How does Jake and Paul's story competing against technology? What's your reaction to that when you hear those synopses of these two allegories? And we're wide open. Well, let me just ask the question: do we still value work in America? Yes, you all are working right now, correct? I presume, yes, too much. Thank you, Vicky. I saw some head nods. Is it different from what it was, however many, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago in the industrial age? It's a lot different. I see some head nods. How is it different? We value work too much. We value it a lot. Is it different?
This is Corey. So different because everything is so reliant on computers now. So much of our work is done in front of computers. A lot of mine is because I'm an associate level counselor, and I virtual appointments with clients. I do my like scheduling on my computer. I do notes on my computer, and I think there used to be a lot less screens, especially
Yes.
50 to 100 years ago.
Yes. Thank you, Corey. Does anyone have ambient AI to capture their sessions and do the note for them, and then you just reread it and correct it? That's a up and coming thing. I like Casey. I like your comment. Casey Crawford says, I think the comparison of these two versions bring up who is harmed or unharmed by progress. Now, this country has a long history of that, for sure. Influencer is a job now. Exactly. The ethic is the same. What we do is different. Doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. There are always holes to drill. There's always clients. Raise your hand, with your emoji. Is your caseload too large for you to handle in a way that you really want to handle it? Raise your hand. Show me by yes as a show of hands or your emoji hands. Yes, we hear that a lot. Our caseloads are much higher than the capacity that I have to serve. We water down counseling, if you will. Technology helps us for sure, but even so, there's always more holes to drill, trees to cut, even with technology. Other thoughts? They're coming in the chat. Dave, thank you. Work-life balance. I didn't hear that work-life balance, that phrase. When I was in my graduate program or my early jobs, we didn't talk. I know I'm the old guy walking to school both ways in snow, but we didn't talk about work-life balance. We didn't talk about self-care. I like talking about it and hearing about it, and I like living it. Do we just give it lip service, or is there some true work-life balance out there? Or are we just overworked, but yet we give it lip service where, it's still just the weekend's the weekend, or maybe one day on the weekend? Dave, what do you think?
My experience has been in this multitude. I'm older than you, Dr. T. Has been, it sounds great, and we would recruit for that, for work-life balance. But at the end of the day, depending on the industry you're in and depending on your task and accomplishments, you stay to get the job done. So,
Yeah,
so it sounds good, it sounds great, but again, at the end of the day, did the job get done? And I can tell you anecdotally, lost a lot of employees before in my old life because they were pursuing that I call it a fictional work-life balance. Again, it just depends on the industry you're in and what your tasks are.
for sure, for sure. And as rehabilitation counselors, our job is to sacrifice for others. With the emotional empathy or time or whatever it is. And a hedonic treadmill. Whoa, that's intense. Yeah. Well, let me advance the slide. We still value work. I think we're all agreed on that. It's different.
Paul.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah. So, in thinking about your question, what comes to me is what's changed in my reference point is the steam engine is a bullet train these days, and while we have technology that is supposed to be improving and advancing, in reality, I would challenge anybody to find technology that has really done anything to lessen the load. If anything, all it's done is created additional expectations for us to be able to manage what is now a bullet train instead of a steam engine.
Yes.
We've gotten more complicated. We have our needs and abilities and our professional skill sets have expanded out beyond what you and I went through in our initial training. It's become such a it's broadened so much, and I don't know how we ever slow that train down. As a professional, just coming out of orientation or interviews for new grads coming into our programs, I'm looking at them thinking, do they really know what they're stepping into? You know, are they gonna find a career out of this, or is it gonna bake them in the first few years of a career that's very demanding?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. For students who are on this workshop, or you work with students, and I'm wondering if you're also noticing the following: the students in the graduate programs, they aren't as tuned into their email as I am, or the older generations. We send out emails in mass with all this important information, but it's not scrollable. It's not like a TikTok scroll of email. So I know a lot of our students in the school I'm at, they miss a lot of things because they're not even curating. They don't even go to their email. So I'm trying to find a way, and I know this is more bullet train, Joe. Is there a way for AI to turn the email into a banner scroll for the student to scroll, and then they can curate their emails much like TikTok videos and get the update that Dr. So-and-so has left and now report. I know I'm already going down the rabbit hole. So let me pause myself and pause us, and let's get back to basics. And the basic I want to use for our frame with this discussion is the self-determination theory. This is DC and Ryan. It's been out for, several decades. I like it. It's simple. That's part of the reason why I like it. It makes sense to me. Whether it's the truth of all being and in human nature, I don't know. That's for each and every one of us to decide. It plays off the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and what they did is they identified universal psychological needs, and they defined them in 3 ways: relatedness, connectedness, autonomy, and competence. DC and Ryan saying that these universal psychological needs are just that. They're universal. We all need to meet these. We need to be connected to each other in some capacity. Geez, we're in the business of connectedness, aren't we, as rehabilitation counselors? Autonomy. We need to at least feel, perceive, have a choice, agency. Imagine that. It's another core ethic, a core value of rehabilitation counseling and counseling in general. And competence, being good at something, or the belief that I'm good at something. These universal psychological needs, think about them in terms of your life, your work life, primarily. You're in the business of connectedness, of relatedness, but you also relate to your coworkers. How is your autonomy emphasized where you work? And do you feel competent? Any reactions to that when you think about how your quote unquote universal psychological needs are met or not met, if not outright mitigated by the work that you do? Any reactions? There's a question I forgot to ask when we were kind of reviewing the Paul Bunyan, Jake John Henry allegories. Who's missing from those allegories? What's the implication of those allegories in terms of who's missing? My fellow rehabilitation counselors.
Women and people with disabilities.
How about that, right? Able-bodied men, for sure. A lot is missing from those stories. Voices are lost. Absolutely. Good. All right. So the speaker from group 1, and I don't want to mess up, my memory is certainly not what it used to be. You are representing Chris as the human is superior. Our speaker from group 1, what's your argument for Chris being the primary support?
I think one of the things that came up was the idea of like unconditional positive regard and like shame, and how like humans are uniquely able to like provide that.
Okay. Unconditional positive regard stood the test of time. Still trained in every training program. Excellent. Excellent. No shame. The speaker from group 2.
Corey, you want to take it?
Need to unmute you if you haven't gotten there yet. There, you got it.
There we go. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll take it. All right, so on the okay, so branching off from that, AI would make people feel more comfortable coming to them, talking about their addictions, their substance use, and all the things that pour into it because they might not feel judged because they're not talking to another person who with biases.
Yes.
Furthermore, an AI has a wealth of information it can instantly draw from, whereas a human would need to go back and refer to things if they're unsure. AI is always sure. And let's see what else. So yeah, people are initially would initially be more comfortable coming to it because they're not going to be judged by another human, and
Yes.
uh, it has a all of the information it knows ready to go at an instant. And
Fantastic. So thank you, Corey. So Chris, we see your humanity and your lack of judgment, but that has to be earned, whereas the AI, it's kind of assumed the judgment will be refrained from. Now, I know all the odd groups are ready to respond, but let's go to group 3 in particular. Group 3, you are pro Chris, pro human intelligence. What do you have?
We had several. One of them was authentic empathy. So, a counselor can respond in real time, including to like complex cases. And we can respond to how people act, how they sound, their body language, their tone shifts, as well as include things like information about mental illness and disability and, all of the other biopsychosocial issues that come up.
Excellent. That authentic, that je ne sais quoi, the essence of humanity is what I heard there, as well as on verbal reads and so on and so forth. But I bet group 4 might have something to say about that. Group 4, your speaker, pro AI.
Yes. So we said that AI could quickly um, accumulate knowledge from just different research, as well as evidence-based practices, and very quickly come to some conclusions about most effective interventions given the client's personal traits. We also discussed the idea of there not being bias and reducing any risk of transference, countertransference, as well as being able to quickly resolve ethical dilemmas
Ooh,
because it would be very, very AI would stick to the letter of the law, letter of the ethics code, and not get caught up in that morality or personal opinion piece.
very well stated. I'm not even going to reflect what I heard there because I would devalue it a bit. Let's go to group. I've lost count. Where was that group 4? Where you thank you. So let's go to group 5. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Who's our spokesperson for group 5? What do you have?
I don't think we've picked a spokesperson, but I took notes, so I'll do my best.
Thank you, Kara.
Our group talked about that human factor, being able to enter in that emotional piece of it, and that just sentient presence of being able to be with someone and to gather all of the things that are not necessarily factual information that you would type in or speak into an AI.
Yes. The key word there is sentience. The previous pro Chris group was authentic. Sentience. Excellent. And group 6,
Can I just add? I'll just add to group 5.
Please.
Kara did a nice job, but I just wanted to also mention the sort of the wellness orientation of the people. That's not necessarily the case in the AI because they're more interested in keeping the person engaged, and then sort of the role of confrontation and facing hard truths maybe, and also encouraging self-reflection in clients that maybe doesn't happen as much with AI.
Yes, 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 yes. Excellent. Group 6, what do you have in rebuttal or to extend the case for AI?
Yeah, so we were defending AI, and to build on a couple things already said. One thing with AI is that it doesn't have for relatedness, it doesn't have the office hours. You can talk to AI at 3 in the morning if you want. And we talked about the objectivity, the no bias. If you're working with a client with addiction who's experiencing maybe suicidal ideation or something, that could throw a counselor off. They could kind of freak out. With AI, that's not going to happen. So we thought that would be a big plus there.
AI doesn't need self-care time, does it? There's no burnout there, is there? There's no
Nope.
after hours. Oh boy. And now we ended up with an odd number of groups. So group 7, the case for Chris, the human, gets the, so to speak, the last word. What do you have, group 7?
Well, I think we need to make sure that we emphasize the connectivity, the relatedness that a human can give to the client counselor relationship. That there's the emotion, the body language that you're able to read, and I think the other added point that we had was that there's personal experiences that AI cannot and delve into, and especially maybe with addictions, that might be something that an addict needs, is some type of personal reflection that's going to help them to better deal with what they're dealing with.
Yes. Again, a keyword that experience, an AI and artificial intelligence doesn't have experience as the sentient human does, as the authentic human does. What AI does is mimics all of that to the best of its ability, and it's pretty damn good at it, isn't it? Yeah. Who wins the argument? It's not about winning, but it's just taking that perspective. And here's my final question to start wrapping us up. Absolutely, yeah. There's so much we don't know about AI. It has arrived before we've studied it, and I know most technology that's the case, but this one is definitely the bullet train of arrival. I think, and I agree or disagree, I think kids find it easier to build relationships with an AI or online than they do in an office or even over a computer like this virtual space. And we have a society that is gravitating towards meeting relatedness online, meeting competence online, meeting autonomy somehow online.
Hey, Paul, can I offer a wacky scenario here for a second?
I'd expect nothing less, Dr. Kiefer.
All right. So those of you that are old enough remember the old movie. I think Matthew Broderick was in it, the War Games movie from the 80s or 90s. It was an 80s movie where the machine was basically running these nuclear exchange programs. And at the end of that movie, the learning of that program, that very new program, it basically beat itself and learned that there was no win. There was not a win available. You have to wonder about whether AI, as it continues to evolve and continues to supposedly grow and become more and more knowledgeable about the human experience and all that, is it possible that AI at some point is going to end up where we are as a profession and say, holy crap, this is difficult. It's it's really hard at the end of the day to deliver what human beings really need and not just be a source of spitting out resource or spitting out solution-focused things. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I wonder if AI has a lifespan too, where it's going to learn the difficulty of what people think is doable from an artificial perspective. I don't know.
Yes. Burnout in the form of what was that not de-encryption, but jammed up ones and zeros or whatever. Absolutely. And Joe, I don't know if you see it, Allie or Ailey, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Ailey Welsh. How about a nice game of chess? That is the quote from the movie War Games. Folks, I think, let me just wrap up with this. I was going to ask another question, but we're just about out of time. This is just me thinking, feeling like the rest of us. I think there will be a day where AI is going to outperform us. And I think it's an empirical question amongst many other questions. Reading nonverbals, that's just going to be visual, reading programs and so on and so forth. We'll be hooked up to monitors where the AI is going to have our biofeedback, reading at, going into different, well, I need to be more person-centered, or this person's heart rate variability is really high right now, so let's go into a more cognitive-based approach, more directive, more confrontational, so on and so forth. I think we need to be part of that development as opposed to try to stop it, because it's coming. I believe, I don't say this is fact, I want to be real clear about that. What's the most expensive part of any counseling organization? What is the most expensive line of any budget of a counseling organization?
Salaries and benefits.
Absolutely. The human, Chris. People. And if AI can perform as well, maybe even a little less at the reduction of cost, we're not going to win that argument. And you know that. We know that. We're not going to win that argument. Okay. So this is just me signing off here in the next couple minutes. Let's use it to our advantage. Let's learn more about it. I would recommend, don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Don't assign it, okay, client, on Saturday nights if you're feeling suicidal. Don't call me. Call it. I'm not saying that, but let's get with it. There are things on ChatGPT I wasn't aware of, and I thought I was pretty savvy with it. You can build a chat with guardrails. It's a specific chat. Go in here, client, and this is a job readiness chat, and it'll restrain a client from going outside of those rails. So there's so much to be learned, so much to be shared, so much to be researched and learned about. I could go on and on, but I think you get the drift of that final point there. I hope this was a good spend of, or good time spent on a Friday noon or whatever time zone you're in. Thank you very much. Dr. Sacco-Benny, thanks again for having me, and the ARCA board. Allie, thanks for that wonderful introduction. Any final